Hello and welcome back to That Old Shop. My name is Mike Scott and the burb is semi down again. It is making a squeal when I hook up my trailer. It sounds like it's somewhere in the middle of the vehicle to the rear. It's hard to tell. Had my neighbor even listen for it. So I suspect it's the U-joints on the main drive shaft, the one that goes from the transfer case to the rear differential. I replaced the U-joints on the front output shaft, and they were very dry and already putting marks. You know, the needle bearings are already putting marks on the stud or boss or whatever you want to call it on the U-joint. So I suspect that those were the original U-joints, and I'm not sure if these U-joints that I'm about to replace are original to the vehicle or not. It's hard to tell until I get it out and look at it, but even then it's got 100 and almost 90,000 on it, I think now. So this is the trailer I hooked up to the Suburban, and I had it over here next to my garage in this grassy area. And I started driving forward and I got this squeal. Didn't sound like it was a brake kind of squeal, and it didn't change when you put your foot on the brake or anything like that. So I unhooked the trailer and then just moved the vehicle by itself, no squeal. Hooked the trailer back up and it's squealing again. Same area, like I stated, over there, mid of the vehicle to the rear, somewhere in there. So I'm suspecting it's just dry U-joints. So the trailer was not. The trailer's about, I think it's 2,300 pounds empty. I just had it maybe 500 to 1,000 pounds. I might have had it in the trailer at that time. So I think it was just changing the angle of the U-joint a little bit, where it got to more of a dry spot and it started to squeal. So that's what I'm suspecting. So I have the vehicle backed up onto some blocks, and I have the front wheels blocked, front and rear, because this transmission's gonna need to be in neutral in order to wiggle the U-joint out of the yoke on the rear differential. So getting ready. And there's a close-up of the block that I have the vehicle up on. It's not a cinder block or something like that. It is a solid block. So no danger of the block crushing and the vehicle smashing my chest or something when I'm under there. So I've been slowly loading the vehicle. That's why I had to move the vehicle to get some different larger items in there and save me some steps, because I'm getting ready to take another load down to an area we plan on moving to and put these items in storage. It's amazing what you accumulate through the years, and we downsized quite a bit on items, personal property kind of stuff. So this is going to be a lighter load weight wise, but it's just kind of some bulky, looser stuff. These are some sides to some shelving that I had in my garage. So I have these screwed down to kind of hold in these looser items, so I don't have to lash down every single little item. And then I'm going to put some wood across and a heavy tarp over the whole load to help hold the flying parts that want to fly out, lighter plastic parts and things like that. Drive shaft, you can see both wheels. I have a solid block under both rear wheels. I backed up onto that to give me more room to work under there, especially because I have the running boards there. So we'll get to it. I'll get the camera underneath and get that thing out. If you watched my other video when I did the front output shaft, you saw that I kind of struggled along with some C-clamps that I borrowed from a friend of mine to get the old U-joints out of that drive shaft and press the new ones in. So the reason I had to do it that way because I only have two local parts stores near me, Napa and O'Reilly's. And Napa didn't have any rental tools, and that's been happening through the years once that store got bought out. They used to have a complete machine shop there. They used to rebuild engines. I had them rebuild a four-cylinder for me once. But they didn't have anything, and the O'Reilly's normally has one, but evidently it was checked out. So this time around I went and got the U-joints from Napa, and I'll show you those, and then I went over to O'Reilly's and just rented the tool, which they did have this time. So but the U-joints are SKF brand, and SKF is actually located pretty near me in Elgin, Illinois, which is about maybe 20 miles from me. But the U-joints are actually made in China. And I looked at my past video when I did the front output shaft, and I did put SKFs in there as well. So I'm a little nervous about going with all Chinese for anything moving, anything precision made, because their bearings are pretty substandard. So I'm hoping that SKF is on top of it over there in China with the quality control. And this tool is just like a heavy duty C-clamp, really. The C-clamps I had borrowed were kind of on the large side, and they were a little tweaked out as far as the C of the C-clamp, and so I wasn't getting an even nice push on it. So this will help me with that. And I've never used this tool before. Through the years, whenever I've had to replace U-joints, I've always used a bench vise. So, and like I've stated in my other videos, I don't have any bench vices because here because I've moved them all. They're all in storage at this point. So the main tools that are needed for this job is, of course, something to lay on. Socket set, a pry bar for popping the rear universal joint out of the yoke on the differential, and then before you do that you got to mark it somehow so it goes back together the same way. Okay, the vehicle is not high enough on the blocks. The differential, the pumpkin, is still in my way of getting at that U-joint. So I'll have to go in from the side here. Okay, to get this back on here in the same orientation, I'm going to paint a mark on here. There's already a white mark on the yoke. And I'm going to put one on the drive shaft here, and I have some white spray paint. I could just do that, but I'm trying to be a little neater at it here. So there, and there. Okay, these bolts are 7/16 or 11 millimeter. 7/16 is a little loose. I'm going to use the 7/16 though because it's just a little stronger wrench than my 11 millimeter. Okay, got them broke loose. Now I gotta go put the transmission in neutral. So instead of using the scribe to mark it, I elected to use the paint because there already was some paint on there, but since I have the scribe, I'm going to put a mark there. And put a mark there in case I get overzealous with my cleaning of the parts up and want to take my marks off or accidentally take my marks off with an angle grinder or something. I'll have something to go by. These clamps I'm going to lay out underneath the vehicle here on the side that they came off of as well. And I'll even lay them so that the top goes the way the clamp is right now. The top is going to go back in the same location on the top. Because just a little bit of pressure this way or that way will cause those needle bearings to bind a little bit and wear out prematurely. If you're going to clean up those clamps, which I probably will, got to make sure, of course, you get them back in the same orientation, same location and same orientation as far as top and bottom. There are no grease zerks on these U-joints. Now the ones I'm putting in there, the SKF brand, does have grease zerks, so I can add some grease and maybe get them to last a little bit longer. So you take your pry bar and put it in here and pop that out of there. Put that back up where it was. And I feel a little, there's a little roughness, I feel it in there. And as far as the front goes, without twisting your drive shaft, as the transmission is in neutral, I could actually go up and put it in gear. I think I will do that. Okay, got the transmission back in gear. And it's just a matter of lifting up the rear of the drive shaft and pulling it straight out of the tail of the transfer case. Because I have the rear of the vehicle up, no fluid is coming out of the transfer case. That may or may not happen depending on your angle of the vehicle when you're working it. Alright, so I decided to clean up a lot of the exterior of the tube. It's got like some chunky, bumpy rust on it. And I don't have any angle grinders here because I've already moved those, so I have to do a lot of this by hand. I just got an old junky file. I'm just gonna more or less work around the exterior of the tube and take a lot of that off that way. And before I get too far along with that, I'm going to pop those two caps off and see what's under there. So this is the smoother one. It even has some ridges in there where the needle bearings are running. It's got grease, but it's got a old sticky gummy. The one that was a little roughness. Yep, same thing. So it was time. here, camera will focus. See those marks in there? Those are actually ridges. You can feel them with your fingernail. These are actually pretty deep. That's from the needle bearings inside the cap there. The grease was just dry, and probably there was some contamination getting past the seal and getting grit in there and making it worse. So it was definitely time. So these are held in with exterior clips, which is what I've worked with mostly in the past. The front output shaft, if you watch that video, they actually had there's a machine, a groove machined in here, and they inject plastic in there to hold the cap inside the yoke on the ends of the drive shaft. So on that one I had to melt the plastic out of there, and then there was a ring. Instead of being external like this, it was internal, the inside here. They made it with two different ways, the plastic retention and then the outer clip retention. It's just the replacements for the front output shaft, the replacement U-joint had the inside clips. So in the end, this is still going to have two different ways. The front output shaft will have the inside clip, and this larger rear drive shaft will have the outside clips. Press from O'Reilly's. I showed you a different one earlier. I got it out, looked at it, and it was all messed up. The threads were messed up and the end was bent. So I took that back. Got this one, which I know was a newer one. I took this, took the other one back, got this one, but this one is bent as well. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but well, that's not going to put even pressure on the U-joint, which is a kind of a press fit. Okay, so the two presses I rented from O'Reilly's, they had two different sets. One was an older, one was a newer. Both of them were damaged, even the newer one. So that was not going to be usable for me. So I ended up running to Harbor Freight and buying their cheaper set that's supposed to be just for ball joints, but it will work for U-joints. It's just that the diameter here is kind of close on the more universal one for both ball joints and U-joints. This hole is bigger, that's all. And it's probably, a little bit stronger, but this is working for me. Comes with all these other parts for doing ball joints, but I don't know if I'll ever use it for ball joints, but it's working for the U-joints. That. Fighting the cold. Well, this is the front U-joint, and it actually looks pretty good, so maybe this one's been replaced. The front one usually goes bad first because it's closest to the center of the source of power from the motor. The other one at the other end is in worse shape. Maybe that one is never been replaced. Maybe this one got replaced at some stage before I owned the vehicle. So now we're moving on to the other end. Okay, finishing up this side. But get to stay where I want it. Come. What you guys doing out there? What you doing? Watching for squirrels? You guarding the yard from squirrels? Huh? You keeping the squirrels out? How about you? How about you, Bella? You keeping the squirrels out too? I think I'm gonna get some measurements on this Chinese stuff. $188.5. $188 and a couple of tenths. $188. So those are half thousandths larger than this hole anyway. Check another one. Check the other side here. $188, solid $188. Solid 187. That can't be right. $187 and about 8 or 9 tenths. All right, I'm going to open up these holes a little bit more. 188.5, which is just what the U-joint caps measure. 188.5. 188. This is some pretty worn out 120 emery paper, so it's like, I don't know, it's like about 240 or something, or so I'm not taking much out, and I don't want to take much out. $188.5. 80 in a couple. I think that's as loose as that one's going to get. Okay, so when I was working on this, I wrote down here small weight. This is the weight that they put on here to balance the shafts. There's a larger one on this one and a smaller one on that one. So I wrote down small weight is the front of the vehicle, so that's where this yoke would go on the front of the drive shaft. So I have to flip it around. I think I'll wrap some tape around here. That's just to hold these two caps on until I get it out to the vehicle. Now on to the yoke. And that's no joke. I have quite a bit of cleanup to do on the yoke yet. couple of spots that got dinged when I was removing the old U-joints, the body of the U-joint, the center of the U-joint pressed on these edges here. So just kind of nicked or peened the edge over. I'm just scraping that high spot off. And it's just on the inner edge here. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but right in there. Steel is different than wood as far as sanding goes. Lots of times to remove material, you would sand one way, and unlike wood, you'd sand 90 degrees to that. Because you put grooves in the metal, and so you want to take those grooves, which are the high spots, you want to take those off by going in a different direction, 90 degrees to those grooves. I should say ridges. Really, it's the ridges you want to remove. And that's the same, you know, for rust or anything, you know. Because I'm using some pretty fine paper. I think it's 150, but it's a worn 150. Because these holes are thinner, the material is thinner here and thicker back here, the tendency is to oblong the hole by removing more material on this part of the diameter of the hole rather than back here, because it's thicker back here and there's more material, and so you have to give that a little bit more attention, or the proper attention, in order so you can keep the hole round. And the advantage of doing things by hand is you can, you know, feel a nick, feel a high spot or a ridge, and just get that sanded off so you're not riding on top of that and then going on the opposite side of the hole and oblonging it somewhat. I want to keep it as round as possible. .188 and like 3/10. That's pretty good already. 188 and about 7/10. So that's a little bit bigger already than what the caps measure by a couple tenths. 188 and 9. That's a little bigger already. This is probably going to be tight. Probably be like 188 and 3/10. 188 and a half. So we're good there. That's fortunate. I didn't have to do as much cleanup to get these to the diameter I wanted, which was at least 188 and a half, which is what the caps measure. So I'll bring the drive shaft back over here and we'll get this on. So again, the end with the smaller weight is the front of the vehicle, so that would get this yoke here, which slides into the tail of the, in this case it's a 4-wheel drive, so in the back of the transfer case. If it was 2-wheel drive, then it'd be go in the back of the transmission. And I had these marked here with some spray paint. If you saw when I was painting the drive shaft, the black, I did paint over one of my marks, and I realized that, and off camera I wiped the black paint off enough to where I could see where my white mark was, and I redid my white mark, so good to go there. So these marks have to line up. I got a white mark on the other end that's going to line up with the yoke on the pinion on the rear differential in the vehicle. I want to clean these grooves out here. If the clips don't set in there right, you know, there's a chance a clip could come out, and then the cap could work out on the drive shaft as you're going down the road, and then you're going to have some real problems. So this is kind of a critical deal. But if you've done it before, you know, doesn't seem as critical. You're just used to doing it, getting it to a certain point, putting it together a certain way, just like anything. This groove is actually pretty dirty. I think I got it. Let's do that one. I had already scraped these grooves with an angled pick, but the pick has a point, so it's hard to get the flat groove cleaned out with a pointy pick. You got to go over it several times. And then you got to go over it several times with the Q-tip here. Because it is a pretty tight fit, snap ring in the groove, because you don't want the snap ring to have play moving back and forth, because it'll eventually wear out and come out and have the problem that I just described. Okay, I think we got her. Put the telescoping gauges away. Put the mic away. This should go together pretty easy. And it did. I've never been able to push one in like that. So maybe these have been replaced because I didn't do much sanding in there to clean them up. I thought I was going to actually have to do more than what I did do. Because I know all the caps are the same. I measured them. Okay, I want to make sure that these move pretty good. If there's some stiffness, just give it a little rapid tap tap. When you get to a certain side and you give it a couple of taps and you notice that that's loosening up and the other taps didn't, then you need to know to kind of concentrate maybe on that one side. Okay, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Let me get the grease gun. Just want to give enough grease till you see some start to come out, these seals here, just a little bit. See the grease came out on this seal here? And I wiped off all the extra grease that came out around there, the seals, just because I don't want the grease there and a bunch of dirt accumulating on there right away. Most of it's going to get thrown off as you're going down the highway, but I like it off for the dirt purpose. So this yoke here, we got to make sure it's really clean, especially on the inside here, the splines. Sometimes I'll wrap a rag around her right away as soon as I pull it out. But I kept it pretty clean, but I'm going to go over the inside. I don't really feel anything, any gritty things or anything like that, but I want to make sure those splines are definitely cleaned out. I'm just taking a Q-tip and going around in there. And I'll spray it out with some brake cleaner. Okay, almost made it in the bucket. Really stunk up my shop now. I'm keeping these straps or caps, or I guess straps they're called. This one is on the left side of the vehicle, the driver's side. This is on the passenger side, and I'm keeping them orientated as far as which side was the top. So this is the top. And you gotta clean these out. Get these little corners scraped out here. And you want to put anti-seize on these bolts. A smart guy would put the anti-seize on before he crawls under the vehicle. If you ever think you got these clamps or straps mixed up, usually the outside corners are banged up from rocks hitting them and whatnot. You know, the whatnot stuff. There you have it. that's about it on the U-joints. I had to take the rear U-joint back off because I had the grease fitting facing the wrong way and I couldn't get my grease gun in there once I installed it on the vehicle. So I had to take it back off and flip that U-joint around. But no big deal because it was the parts were already cleaned up and everything like that. So, but that's it. It's running smooth. It's not making any squealing noises. That's when I started to tear into it. When I started to make a squeal, try to get them before they start clunking. That means they're really wore out then if you wait that to the clunking stage. But that's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.